Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, dear brothers and sisters, to a new episode of Hajj Day Today. I'm your host, Omar Khalid, for the rest of the episode. We talk about the rituals of the Hajj and how to connect them with the real-life issues in this program. Like yesterday, we talked about the essence of Hajj with Brother Junaid Dar. And tonight, we're going to talk about racism. It's, of course, a very big issue, and it's widespread not only among Westerners, it's also, and unfortunately, among the Muslims too. So we are going to talk, inshallah, with our brother Abdus Salam, who is always a star in our shows in Huda tonight. So let's welcome him to the show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'm really happy to have you again and again. We always enjoy discussions in Huda tonight, and inshallah, it's going to be a very deep discussion, a very nice one, inshallah. So, maybe we can start from the beginning of this discussion. I have noticed before going live that you never made Hajj before, Brother Abdus Salam, like me. So, but in general, we as Muslims, we know the lessons that we can learn from Hajj in general. So from your perspective, what do you think is the influence and the effect that must be positively, can affect us as Muslims to eradicate or to stop us from becoming racist or to maybe heal humanity from this disease?
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Yeah, this is a very interesting topic that's been chosen this evening. And I mean, I have never been on Hajj. Inshallah, Allah will invite me to Hajj.
Together, inshallah.
But at the same time, from observing the rituals of Hajj and even seeing documentaries made on Hajj, and about Hajj, and when you think about racism, it's really, I think if we perform it right, it's a cure, not only for the other ailments that we have, but also for the ailment of racism. You see the people coming together from all corners of the globe as one nation, as one Muslim nation, and performing the rites prescribed to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I had the blessed opportunity to go to Umrah, to make a lesser pilgrimage. And I saw people from everywhere, in Mecca, and they're just coming just to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And, most of the people, they're not just Arabs there. I mean, you see people from all over. And unlike being in Jeddah, where you see the people they're going about, to work and so forth, and, the restaurants, there in Mecca, it's just a mix of all kinds of people.
Actually, because there is a misconception that Muslims are Arabs.
Yeah.
That's not true. Actually, Arabs are a minority, like 15 or 20% only.
Yeah.
And most of the Muslims are not even Arabs. And because they have this in the media, and of course, mashallah, you're a specialist in this field, Brother Abdus Salam, we worked in the media and you still work in the media. So you know this, the playing and the stereotyping.
Yeah.
They want to have this image of somebody who lives in the desert, or maybe wears certain clothes. Of course, that's nothing wrong with this, but to have this image, these are only the Muslims and that's it. And we can have Muslims, they look European, completely European.
Yeah.
They look from different colors, different backgrounds.
Everybody, every place, as long as they take that shahada and they believe. We have people, stereotypes with what they show in movies, what they show. And, if we don't really look into it, if we don't study, and if we don't try to understand, if we don't seek to understand each other, then, these stereotypes can prevail over individuals. But may Allah, rid us of this as much as we can, at least, in this world, inshallah.
So maybe what you said, Brother Abdus Salam, the solution for this is to interact, to know each other. And this is actually part of one of the verses in the Quran.
Yes.
That Allah created us, لِتَعَارَفُ, to know each other.
I think that's a great solution. Myself, I grew up, I started off, was born in Chicago, which at that time, it was the 70s, and it was very segregated. And throughout the 80s as well, I spent most of my childhood there. And segregated, you have the black people in one area, white people in another area, Mexicans in an area, Puerto Ricans in an area, Irish, and so on. And that's just how Chicago was. If anyone comes, and then you had the different downtown areas where people come and from all over. But if you had a white guy come into my neighborhood, okay, and you would wonder, what is he doing here? He's not the police. Is he the police? Okay, is Is he the guy who, you know, turns on and off the electricity, or is he working for the city? Or if he's not, then it's like, why is he here?
Subhanallah.
And you know, who is he? And similarly, if a black man goes into a white neighborhood, then it was the same issue. Until I moved. So I was, you know, perhaps I was a bit racist myself, because all I was really exposed to, I mean, my family, we had white friends. We had a couple. You know, I can count them on a half of a hand, you know. And so all that I was really exposed to was primarily black people, unless I went downtown or to a restaurant or something like that, or encountered the police, or went to a college. And when I went with my brother to college, you know, one day he was like, he could take me with him. But other than that, in our neighborhood, it was black people.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
Actually, I heard that in America specifically, like most Americans, they didn't interact with Muslims before. And most of them, they didn't travel outside of America.
Well, see, with that, you know, before 9/11, you see, it was a whole different kind of environment. But I'm going to get to that in one moment. Sure. But my point about my neighborhood is when I moved from Chicago to California, and I lived actually in Hollywood for a few years. And there you see all kinds of people. I mean, you see all kinds of people, good and bad, all different colors, different religions. And your mind begins to open up. You're living right next door to somebody who is white, or maybe, you know, he's a rock and roll player, which I'm not into rock and roll, but they wear the long hair. You say, why is this guy with long hair? What is this? This is crazy.
Weird, you know.
But then you say, when he walks by, he says, hey, how you doing? Oh, how you doing? He's a human being too, right? So then you get to meet, you know, the Chinese people, all these different people, you know, and it really broadens your horizon. And you say, okay, people are people.
SubhanAllah.
It's not about race. It's about if this person is cool or not, if they're trying to be a good person or not, if they're Muslim or not, if they're even trying to be a good person in their religion. Perhaps, I mean, their aqidah is messed up, but are they trying to be a good person? Do they treat you with respect? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because some people, they mix between, like, if I'm not a good Muslim, or if I'm a good Muslim, I have to treat others who are non-Muslims in a bad way or in a different way. They misunderstand that treatment is completely different from your belief.
We are the creation of Allah. We are the son of Adam. And that respect, sometimes people love that and they come to Islam. And even if they don't, at least we have a common, I would say, a common understanding between each other.
And actually, I think, Brother Abdul, this is a difference between Europe and America. Like, maybe Europe is more segregated than America. And because if you talk about America, for instance, the situation that happened with the last banning of Muslims for certain countries for a certain period, what happened at that time, that Americans, a lot of them, they stood by the Muslims in the airports and so on, and they chanted for Muslims, and that was like a shock for so many people, even Muslims. So why did this happen? Maybe this comes back to what you're saying, Brother Islam, that they interact with Muslims. They have seen them as students, as maybe they are like colleagues, they are co-workers, they are people.
Yeah. And this is the thing. So, I mean, if you live with someone, you know, we're humanized. We realize we're all human. And but if I grow up segregated, if I grow up in an environment where there's not much of that person, then whoever I'm with, they can define who that person is for me, or the television, or something that's not, you know, painting a clear and true picture. And that's what's happening. That's what happens with racism. This is why people are racist a lot of times, because they grow up in an environment where these people are not around, and the ones who are around, their parents are telling them how to think about
avoid them.
or even how to think about them. But we can go really, really back. And I mean, the racism in America, is really institutionalized, unfortunately. I mean, America was born on racism. It became rich off of the backs of black people.
You're going back to slavery? Maybe
going back to slavery, and what they did to the indigenous people before then. So the country was founded, actually, the police of America were actually, when they really became organized, the first real police stations were made to capture runaway slaves.
SubhanAllah.
So when people say, oh, why are the police, why are they so brutal, why are they treating black people like this? Well, they've been doing it. This is why they were created. And not all police officers are like that. But people don't know because they don't study about it. And I just recently found out about it personally. But, you know, racism can be cured by the cure of all ills. One is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what He sent us, which is Islam. And you know, the rituals that Allah gives us, the way of life, even, you know, the hadith that has been preserved from our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, even in his last sermon, he spoke about this subject of racism, and that only people are superior by their deeds, right? By their taqwa, by their. I don't know, I haven't memorized it, but I remember it was addressed. So the issue is, okay, with the racism, okay, like any other problem, if it's going to be cured by Islam, we have to practice Islam.
Oh, wow.
It has to be something that's in our hearts, that's shown by our actions, that's shown by, you know, the way we speak and treat each other.
So have you noticed, Brother Bassam, maybe I'm going to be a little bit straightforward, but have you noticed from your experiences that some of the Muslims, they can like perform some sort of racism or some sort of stereotyping too?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're humans too, and we have faults, and this is what we have our Islam for, to fix those faults. We have, you know, I heard some brother say, he said, we have Islamic culture and cultural Islam, you know. So if we're living in the Islamic culture, we're doing things from Islam. Our culture is Islam. But then if our Islam is cultural, then we're getting our culture and putting it in Islam and calling it Islam.
Like the way you dress, the way you eat, the way you
Even
speak.
in the way you think.
think.
I mean, like say that I'm from a country. I'm not going to mention a country. But will I let a black man marry my daughter?
Interracial marriages.
If I'm from, let's say, Pakistan or Afghanistan, and I'm not dissing none of you, I love all people, or Eritrea even, will I let a non-Eritrean marry my daughter? You know? Okay, yeah, I'm not racist, but okay, well, if I come to marry your daughter, okay, and I'm a good Muslim, inshallah, I'm practicing, I have a good job, I can take care of her, but I'm black. Oh, you're not racist, black shouldn't have anything to do with it, should it? But it does. It does, you know.
So the action speaks louder than words, even if I say like the lip service.
Yeah, and you might even think that, oh, yeah, I'm a liberal person. But when that brother comes and asks about your daughter, are you asking about his salat? Are you looking at his skin or what's up? You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's a reality. You have people who will not marry their daughters outside of their race, to someone outside of their race. And I mean, I've personally experienced that one. Back in the day before I was married, and I, you know, was a good, decent sister, you know, and I inquired, you know, can I speak to your father? And she was like, yeah, that would be great. She was happy about the whole situation. But she said, my parents would never accept you. I said, why? She said, because you're black. She said, I'm not going to raise my kids like that. If it was her choice, you know, alhamdulillah, it wasn't, because I'm satisfied with my wife now. You know, I wouldn't choose any other woman, right? But,
bless you with her.
But at that time, it was like maybe 7, 8 years, not more than that ago. But she was straight up with me. She said, my parents would never accept you because you are black. And she said, well, that's my parents.
That's really unacceptable, you know. Yeah,
in Islam, I said, well, you know, you had young Sahaba and their parents were kuffar. They were non-believers, disbelievers.
Perfect.
And the you know, the kids, or they were believers. So they went away from this way of their parents because they were following the way.
Great analogy.
Yeah.
I like this
analogy. I said, what about that? She's like, yeah, but my parents are my parents. And in that situation, maybe you don't want to marry into that situation because you don't want to marry into a problem. But case in point, that it's reality. I mean, and I use that out of many examples because that I'm sure, because she told me this is the reason. If you're standing in Salat, when you're standing there, you come into line, maybe you come a little late, and then the brother, he distances himself. You know, you're supposed to be like this, right? Your feet, right? Yes. But maybe he moves.
Sometimes it happens also because of the different.
But Allah knows best why he's doing that. So I can't assume that he's a racist. He's doing the khayr. I mean, have the best construction, mental construction. So I'm like, that's strange. Why is he doing that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
And, I mean, it's happened to me where the person did like this and I did like this, which I don't think that doing that is a sunnah, by the way. If they moved, is it the sunnah to close the gap again? I don't know. But and then to the point where he left his salat. Okay.
Left the salat completely?
He left his salat completely. And walked away, and I just closed the gap.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah. This is,
That happened in Egypt, by the way.
oh, wow.
Yeah, that happened in Egypt. Well,
I expected that maybe it's like Western culture or something like this.
it's
Well, that's-
actually, unfortunately, is a global culture that dark is worse than white. That white is prettier than black.
what is the logical, like,
Allah
understanding of
knows
this? There's
best,
nothing
man.
logical about this. This is completely illogical.
You know, Allah knows best why people are racist. There is a global culture. I mean, America is kind of leading the world in a lot of cultural thought.
SubhanAllah.
And when we go away from our Islamic culture, that is.
SubhanAllah. I actually, if I tend to say, like, of course I don't try to do the opposite, but what I know from black people, they're very kind, very strong.
Well,
So
that's a
mashallah-
generality
Yeah,
as well. If you ain't been to the neighborhoods I've been to, you find some black people very cruel as well. So it's not about black or white.
Yes, of course.
And this is what I love about Islam. The people who really get it, like I'm not married to a black woman now, but when if we have an issue, it's about Quran and Sunnah.
SubhanAllah.
This is what takes precedence. I have a culture, she has a culture, and that's great. It's good to embrace your culture, the halal of it. At the same time, what is above it? Okay, we believe Allahu Akbar. We believe that what we have been given, this gift of Islam, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greater than it. We know it's greater than that. And that's the thing, not only with, and we're talking about racism, but it's with just culture generally. It's with everything. What is first? What if it's a work culture and it's time to salah, but they want you to do something else? You have a free will. What are you going to do? So when we make Allah and then we make Islam and we put it over everything else, perhaps it's what I'm noticing too is the popular culture. Well, take off your hijab, wear tight clothes, follow the way that the kuffar are following.
So you mean that challenge the status quo? This is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what Islam
Don't
does.
try to fit in. Don't
That's
try
what
to-
Islam it makes us do. I mean, we don't have to be. We're not trying to be outcasts.
Yeah.
But there are some things that when it crosses that line of what is right and wrong.
You're decisive but not offensive.
Yeah.
Like it's a balance between.
Yeah,
both
I
of
mean,
them.
if you want to dress in your cultural clothes, eat your cultural food, love your tribe, it's great. I mean, I love black people, not all black people, but generally being black. If I could change it, I wouldn't. You know what I mean? I would never
And
change
that's
it.
natural. Allah makes us.
Yeah,
like,
that's natural. I
we
mean,
love-
when I go back to America and I'm hanging out, you know, and even my friends that are here, we hang out. But at the same time, our Islam is over that. And that's what brings people together. That you know my culture, I know your culture. And Hajj is a great example of that. Though, I mean, I was watching one documentary. It was this African brother, dark African brother, beautiful brown African brother. And it was a documentary. And he was facing racism. In this documentary, he would go to one tent and they would treat him differently than everyone else.
In Hajj?
Yeah, and he was almost angry. He almost blew his Hajj, you could say, right? He almost got angry because of the way they were treating him.
SubhanAllah.
And eventually through the documentary, I mean, he's on Hajj. This is the time to correct our souls. It's a journey to correct ourselves. And he was going through it. That was his test. He was facing racism
SubhanAllah.
on his journey, in his test, you know. I mean, life is a test.
SubhanAllah. In the place that we shouldn't even imagine that there is
Yeah.
racism. So
Yeah.
that's weird.
And then he went through, I mean, they had a documentary of his whole, you know, Hajj. They had like 5 people and they followed them through Hajj. And he found, I remember the night he left from his tent, he got his bedding and they showed it, he walked to another tent where the Africans were, you know. And he was very angry, you could see, but he was trying to contain himself. And then later on, he found peace. And then you saw him, embracing people of other races. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he cured that problem with them as they went through Hajj, you know. So it's a time, if someone does have racist thoughts and racist tendencies, sometimes it's natural if you're in a certain environment to grow up, like myself. I grew up in the west side of Chicago was quite racist because the most of the time when you saw white people, they were coming to harm you. You know?
So we're going to generalize because I have never met in my life maybe white people who treated me in a very good way. So you generalize.
Yeah, you generalize and you say they're like, but then when you get exposed to the wider range of society and people, you realize that this is not true. It's from the shaitan, actually. And racism itself is from the shaitan. You see, shaitan, a'udhu billah, he's a different species than man. You know, and he probably, I don't know if he was the first racist or speciesist or whatever you would call it.
I was made out of fire, he was made out of mud, so therefore I'm better.
I'm better than him.
It has no essence.
No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determines what is what.
SubhanAllah.
We don't determine because we don't have the facility, the ability to determine.
That's really
So if I'm better than this dude because I'm black and he's white, or I'm black and he's Egyptian, or I'm black and he's German, or I'm German and he's black, then I'm playing that same game. And if I really think that, then I'm really lost. Now, if I have those tendencies because of the culture I grew up in, because the world we live in, it's a racist world, this is the truth. But the Islam is the cure to this problem. And if I embrace my Islam, then, and I notice if Allah takes off the blinders and I notice this in myself. Because you know, you have Muslims, we're Muslims, just because they're racist don't mean that they're bad people, they have a problem. And if they pray and they get in touch with themselves and they say, you know, this is wrong, and they make tawbah, then this is the best way.
That's really great to face the problem from the beginning, that we don't just try to like bury our heads in the sand, we face it. We're going to talk about this, Brother Abdul Salam, inshallah, after going to a short report, inshallah. So dear brothers and sisters, we're going to have a short report and come back with Brother Abdul Salam to talk about our topic, racism. So stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Malcolm X was known as a fiery speaker, as a spokesman for the Nation of Islam. He had little trust and no affection for white people. He was accused by the press in the U.S. of being a black racist. When the Nation of Islam suspended him for commenting on the assassination of President Kennedy in 1963, a friend urged him to perform the pilgrimage to Mecca.
Since I am a Muslim, and I knew that I could never stand up in public and represent Mr. Muhammad anymore, and at the same time I didn't at that time want to say why I couldn't represent him, I knew, as his son told me, Wallace Muhammad, that the only salvation for the Muslims, they would have to turn toward the Orthodox religion of Islam. And it was Mr. Muhammad's son, Wallace Muhammad, who encouraged me to make the pilgrimage to Mecca and get myself orientated into the knowledge of the Orthodox religion of Islam.
Malcolm described his experience in Mecca with these words: "Never have I witnessed such sincere hospitality and the overwhelming spirit of true brotherhood as it is practiced by people of all colors and races here in this ancient holy land, the home of Abraham, Muhammad, and all the other prophets of the Holy Scriptures. For the past week, I have been utterly speechless and spellbound by the graciousness I see displayed around me by people of all colors. There were tens of thousands of pilgrims from all over the world. They were of all colors, from blue-eyed blondes to black-skinned Africans. But we were all participating in the same ritual, displaying a spirit of unity and brotherhood that my experience in America had led me to believe never could exist between the white and the non-white. America needs to understand Islam because this is the only religion that erases from its society the race problem. Throughout my travels in the Muslim world, I have met, talked to, and even eaten with people who in America would have been considered white. But the white attitude was removed from their minds by the religion of Islam. I have never before seen sincere and true brotherhood practiced by all colors together, irrespective of their color. You may be shocked by these words coming from me, but on this pilgrimage, what I have seen and experienced has forced me to rearrange much of my thought patterns previously held and to toss aside some of my previous conclusions.
Welcome back, dear brothers and sisters. We hope that you enjoyed this short report about Malcolm X, and we would like to continue with Brother Abdul Salam talking about this great figure. So you would like to touch upon some of his life?
Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. I mean, when you look at Al-Hajj Malik Shabaz's life, you know, Malcolm X, you see a lot of interesting things. I mean, he came from, you know, the streets and the criminal element, and then he started to educate himself. And he eventually entered true Islam, but he was talking about his journey to Hajj, and you know, and how it really eradicates the racism, and it's a cure to the racism. And that's what it is. He's inviting all of the Americans, white and black, to Islam, saying that because, you know, America has a serious race problem, and it's still prevalent today, unfortunately. And the cure to this problem is Islam.
Malcolm X, I think, from his background, he used to think like white people are from the devil, something like this.
Yeah, I mean, the Aqidah of the Nation of Islam is really incorrect in that aspect of saying, you know, all white people are devils. But the problem is, he was in such an environment where it wasn't hard to believe. I mean, growing up, before I went to Los Angeles, when I lived there, if you told me that the white people were evil, pretty much white people are bad, it wouldn't be difficult to believe because 99% of the white people you see treat you bad. I mean, my mom had like a couple of white friends. I think one white friend actually, or a couple. But outside of that, it's the police. They're being very brutal to you, or a white man coming to cut your electricity off from your home, or someone coming to do something bad to you or treat you in a disrespectful way or in a way that shows you that you're inferior. People calling you names. And I'm sure he came from a time, Malcolm came from a time where it was worse, or at least, you know, because in the 70s and 80s, it kind of waned because of the work that was done in the 60s.
Before this, maybe you have to eat from certain restaurants, you eat from certain type of water.
But it's resurfacing now. I thought to myself, if I ever live in a time where this happens, I'll do this and that. Well, I'm in that time. It's back. And but what the brother saw coming out of that environment and going to the environment where you see that these are your brothers. It's about a brotherhood of submission to Allah. It's the cure, not only to racism, but to the community problems that you even see in the black communities. The black communities are suffering in America, many of them. And Islam is the cure to that.
Like what? Would you like to touch?
I mean, I mean, economically, for one. And for instance, let's take, for instance, the man and woman relationship, where they're not getting married. We're not getting married. So if we start a family and we're not married, then you don't have a foundation. It's like if a man, you don't want to marry your woman, man, then and you have children with her, it's like you have a garden without a fence around.
You mean
anybody
that
can
only
come and
cohabiting without like
sometimes they live together, sometimes they don't. But if you, it's like you have a garden, but you don't put a fence around it. Anybody can come and eat from that fruit. You know what I mean? There is no foundation. So that's one of the main problems is the man and the woman relationship. They're not following the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we're having children outside of wedlock, and there's no solid foundation. They're not getting together and planning with that child. Sometimes that bond of the man and wife is not there to be strong. One argument, that's it. You know, two arguments, khalas, you know. So that's one of the issues. And it reflects in an economic situation as well. I mean, we have some serious economic issues, especially, well, with all people in the black community as well. But Islam shows us collective economics and halal ways to get your sustenance, and the making the 5 prayer, and Allah will take care of you, and things like that.
And maybe the solidarity too, because when you pray together, we know our problems. The masjid actually, or the mosque, should be this, like the hub or the center, right, for Muslims to know each other. That if Brother Abdul meets me and knows that I'm in trouble, I see like another brother is in trouble, we can help each other.
And create your own businesses and support yourselves if no one outside is trying to help you. There's a host of problems. I mean, drugs and alcohol, it's taking a huge toll.
It's related also to poverty? Would you link this to poverty?
I mean, definitely. I mean, one, but it's not only a poverty problem, a poor problem. But yeah, it's related to poverty in more than one way. You could talk about the basic way. If you know, I'm taking drugs and I'm doing alcohol, I can't do my basic functions as well. Not some people can. They're the serious alcoholics. You know, they function regularly. You don't even know they're drunk, right? But also, you have to understand that the drug problem in America is also institutionalized. It's not an accident. You know, the people who are selling the drugs, they don't bring the drugs in. Okay. And if you have processed drugs, which are cheaper, you get more time than pure drugs. So,
The recovery, you mean?
I mean, like if someone got arrested with some crack cocaine, okay, they'll get more time than someone who's arrested with pure cocaine, which doesn't really make sense unless the ones who are doing the business are bringing it in, and then they're giving to the poor people as jobs. So they're working jobs. These people, when you go back to Chicago, for instance, where I'm from, they have a serious drug problem. Where you got this guy, he's selling drugs to feed his family. He's not even rich. You know, he said, well, you know what? But I'm not going to eat. You know, at the same time, he's not understanding that if he makes 5 salat a day and strives for halal, Allah will provide for him. I haven't been selling drugs, but I've been in a situation where I don't have money, but I continue to make salat and make my salat and strive, and Allah will provide. So that's one of the cures, the salat, for instance, and them understanding and believing that Allah will take care of them, and that their rizq is their sustenance is written for them, and seek it in a halal way, because you're going to get it. And understanding that about this is, if they could just understand that, having the belief in Allah, that He's going to take care of them, and establishing their salat. This would do volumes. The world would change. The hood would change. But, you know, going back, we have, you know, it's institutionalized, the drug issue, the economic
I think the
issue.
difference between when you sentence somebody like to 5 years or 10 years, I heard that if a white man makes the same, like commits the same crime as the black man did, well, they're not going to have the same time.
I mean, for the most part, one has to do with, you know, of course, you know, if you can't afford a good lawyer, you have public defenders who they make deals with each other. Okay, you get the first 10, I get the second. You know, and you have to understand also that again, America was founded on racism. It's rich. If you had a slave who worked for you, you'd be rich. Okay, okay, go to work for me. I'm going to be at the house. You know, so America was really, it's got a lot of its wealth from slave labor. So I mean, that's the way it is. But the cure, what I do love about America is that you have people, free thinkers, and
they can accept change.
Yeah, they're looking for it. How do you think Obama got change? Right? Because people want change. A lot of people want it. They're hungry for it. And not only Americans, humans.
So what is the role of the Muslims? How can Muslims, like, I don't know, I don't want to use this term, take advantage, but it's like our job as Muslims to do this. So what should Americans, like, from your experience, you lived in the United States, what are we missing? Like, what are we not doing as Muslims?
I mean, it's very interesting. That's an interesting question. One, I think that we need to study more about Islam, that we need to learn more about Islam. I know that's the cure to many ills in America. I mean, practically, from a I mean, if you look at the rules of Islam, it eradicates the problems that are existent. I mean, clearly, not even on a holy spiritual level, which that is a whole nother level, right? Because Allah makes stuff happen. You know what I mean? And so I think Islam is the cure. I know Islam is the cure to these problems. However, there's going to be a section of people who are not going to accept that. They're not going to accept Islam. And that's something that I have to come to grips with, because I love people. I want the best for people. But everyone's not going to follow the best way. But Allah knows who they are. And I
cannot judge.
Yeah, because who am I, right? I pray that I die a Muslim. So, I know that the cure to these problems, as the brother was saying, as Malcolm X was saying many years ago, it's Islam. If this person is racist, it's from both sides. If I'm a racist, but then I'm sure this Quran is the truth. No one could write this book like this. I'm sure it's the truth. And it's telling me not to be a racist.
SubhanAllah.
The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is telling me, so what do I have to do? I have to correct myself.
So studying, knowing, and maybe knowing the life of the companions. Like, for instance, the first people who believed in the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, they were one from Persia, one from Rome, like in the Arabs, and one from Ethiopia or Abyssinia at that time. So different races, different backgrounds, different cultures, and they were the first, we can say, the embracers of Islam in the beginning. Islam was built on their shoulders. So, as you said, Brother Bassam, maybe what I understood from you is to change the thoughts itself, to change the...
Follow Islam, enter Islam holy. What does it say? It says in the Quran, right? And
ادخلوا في السلم كافة.
this is what we got to do. It's more important than ourselves. It's more important than our cultures, our color, our gender, our region, our profession, and our education. This is true Islam. Not that we don't do these things and we push them aside. No. We are who we are. I'm a black man. I'm from Chicago. This is where I'm from. This is who I am. And alhamdulillah, I'm glad Allah, because Allah made me this way. At the same time, I'm Muslim. I won't say I'm an American Muslim. No, I'm Muslim American. So I put the Islam first, and this is what Allah, He demands of us. And when we do that as much as we can, then we're gonna find the successes in life and in the afterlife.
So the priorities.
Yeah.
Muslim, your nationality,
Yeah.
your background, your skin color.
Yeah.
We are not saying that you say, no, I don't care about my skin color,
Yeah,
like in the sense of like those people I go around with, my friends and so
Yeah.
on. But what is your priority?
Yeah,
That's very
I
good.
mean, the Quraysh, I think Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was happy to be from the Quraysh, even though they were non-believers, and eventually a lot of them became believers. So being, your tribe, your country, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, in my opinion, it's only wrong when you don't strain it through Islam, when you don't look at it through an Islamic lens.
What I remember from this is what happens in the mosques in America, and we're going to come back to this inshallah after a short break. Well, this time we're going to talk about it inshallah. So dear brothers and sisters, we're going to have a short report and we'll come back with Brother Abdul Salam talking about racism. So stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Such sincere hospitality and overwhelming spirit of true brotherhood as is practiced by people of all colors and races here in this ancient holy land, the home of Abraham, Muhammad and all the other prophets of the holy scriptures. For the past week, I've been utterly speechless and spellbound by the graciousness I see displayed all around me by people of all colors. I've been blessed to visit the holy city of Mecca. I've made my 7 circuits around the Kaaba, led by a young mutawaf named Muhammad. I drank water from the well of the Zamzam. I ran 7 times back and forth between the hills of Mount Al-Safa and Al-Marwa. I've prayed in the ancient city of Mina, and I've prayed on Mount Arafat. There were tens of thousands of pilgrims from all over the world. They were of all colors, from blue-eyed blondes to black-skinned Africans. But we were all participating in the same ritual, displaying a spirit of unity and brotherhood that my experiences in America had led me to believe never could exist between the white and non-white. America needs to understand Islam because this is the one religion that erases from its society the race problem. Throughout my travels in the Muslim world, I have met, talked to, and even eaten with people who in America would have been considered white, but the white attitude was removed from their minds by the religion of Islam. I have never before seen sincere and true brotherhood practiced by all colors together, irrespective of their color. You may be shocked by these words coming from me, but on this pilgrimage, what I have seen and experienced has forced me to rearrange much of my thought patterns previously held, and to toss aside some of my previous conclusions. This was not too difficult for me. Despite my firm convictions, I have always been a man who tries to face facts and to accept the reality of life as new experience and new knowledge unfolds it. I have always kept an open mind, which is necessary to the flexibility that must go hand in hand with every form of intelligent search for truth. During the past 11 days here in the Muslim world, I have eaten from the path. I do believe from the experience that I've had with them that the whites of the younger generation in the colleges and universities will see the handwriting on the walls, and many of them will turn to the spiritual path of truth. which is the only way left to America to ward off the disaster that racism inevitably must. A white man, a United Nations diplomat, an ambassador, a companion of kings, gave me his hotel suite and his bed. Never would I have even thought or dreaming that I would ever be a recipient of such honors. Honors that in America would be bestowed upon a king, not a Negro.
Welcome back, dear brothers and sisters, and I cannot express, Brother of Islam, like our awe when we heard what Malcolm X said, that he was really like expecting what's going to happen. So
yeah, it's subhanallah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. This is amazing what he was saying, because it's kind of, it looks like it's unfolding today. I mean, right now America's having some serious problems, some serious division problems, and leadership there, you know, I mean, they need to accept Islam.
They're pouring fuel on fire and they're igniting.
What the brother was saying is that the solution to the problem that's been in existence probably since America as we know it has been in existence is Islam. And you know what he was expressing is in its truth. I mean, even now, I mean, I have a lot of friends, you know, white, black, and Muslim friends, and we transcend the racial lines.
Have you noticed, Brother Absam, in your experience, like some of the white people before becoming Muslims and after becoming Muslims, and you see the difference?
No, I haven't really experienced that. Because I mean, I haven't had like a friend and he was a non-Muslim and then he became Muslim. But what I have experienced is just having, you know, white friends. They're Muslims, and I don't even really think about them being white.
Wow,
I think about them as a brother. And this, you know, this is how it is.
Yeah, that's
I
right,
mean, when
that's
we
right.
are Muslims, we're just friends, we're
Never comes to
brothers.
the mind.
Yeah, I mean, and then like even we can joke about not, you know, too bad jokes. We don't have to say bad things, but we recognize we're from different cultures. But it's just, it's not a big thing because we know that Islam is paramount. It's above everything. And what, you know, he was saying so many years ago. And it rings true today.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, Brother Sam, the point of that we don't even notice that when Obama was elected as a president, so of course now you see that celebrating, and well, America now is, now racism is buried and so on. So one of the Muslim scholars, he said, have you noticed that in certain areas like Egypt and Jordan, I think, that there were princes and presidents, that they were very dark-skinned, even more than Obama? They said, who? So he said one of them, I'm not going to mention who, but one of the presidents who came to Egypt, and he put the picture like side by side. His skin is even darker.
Yeah.
And people, oh yeah, that's right. We haven't even noticed, because it's, we as Muslims in general,
it's not such an issue. It's not such an issue. I mean, here in Egypt, there is some racism here.
Sure.
But it's not as malicious as the racism in America.
It's not institutional, you can say this?
Maybe, yeah, it's not so, yeah. It's not so
it's not ingrained.
wicked.
It's not. Yeah.
I mean, Allah knows best. Here it might be a thought. Okay, we think that white is looks prettier than black. I ran across that. You know, my friends, what do you mean? Well, and then he said, well, you know, I think there's a little TV program got you thinking like that. We talk about it, and they say, oh, and it's like an innocent conversation. But in America, it's built off of millions of people being killed, and it's all, you know, we all know the history of all of this bloodshed and hardship, but this Islam.
So what is the next
cure.
step? You said, Brother Abdul, knowing or understanding.
Yeah.
What is the next step for Muslims inside America to face the imminent threat that Malcolm X is talking about?
I mean, I think right now, I mean, Muslims, I think there may be a little less racist in America right now because the Islamophobic thing that's happening right now. So when people have pressure on them, they tend to band together, even black people. You know, when we have pressure on us, you would see back in the day, there wouldn't be the kind of stuff that you saw through the 80s, you know, all this gang violence and stuff like this, because the pressure of the 60s, the 50s, the racism was on them. But once that's lifted, then, and it's like with anything. So right now, as Muslims, we're facing a lot of pressure in the States because the racists and the Islamophobes, all they're band together. And what you notice is the people banding together too. You know, you have people who are liberal thinkers, so they'll come in and band together with the Muslims. And you have some people, which is good and bad, because you have some people who are there saying that we want to live this lifestyle,
Yes.
and it's a wrong lifestyle, but they're still sympathetic to Islam, which inshallah, if they accept Islam, it'll be better for them. But you're seeing that. So hopefully, you know, there'll be some positivity out of this.
Of course.
Islamic phobia, Islamophobia.
And we shouldn't fall into the same category.
It's
and
the same
we have
thing.
this stereotyping of like those people who are maybe siding with certain groups or political movements or activists,
Yeah.
they're evil or they're bad. No, we have to assume the best. Maybe they don't understand. Maybe they don't know who Muslims really are. So we try to, how can I say it, build the bridges.
Yeah, and
Or-
that is, because look, I mean, generally people, you know, they just don't hate for nothing. A lot of times it's ignorance. We don't know what's
Bad
going
experience.
on. Yeah. A brother said even with the Islamic situation in the States, they don't know who we are. We're letting the media or their family define who we are. The Muslims, we're not defining who we are to the
That's
non-Muslims.
very important. And it comes to your profession in the media, Brother Islam. So how can we do that?
I mean, one, I think we just have to be the best Muslims that we can be, because when people meet us at our work and, you know, wherever we are, we're being
So this is
good
the best way of like using multimedia is
Yeah.
in real life.
And also, yeah, I mean, it's happening. It is happening where you see people when they're making, I mean, we have to do dawah, man. I mean, we need to let them know who we are and what we're about. You know, I was at one job in America, and one guy was surprised to find out that Muslims believed in God.
Wow.
He thought I was some weird, strange, and I said, thank God. He said, you believe in God? He came out and asked me, like, and he used to treat me bad, you know, before then. He didn't know that Muslims believed in God. This is our core belief. We have a, you know, we have the
basics.
correct aqidah. We have the correct understanding of God if we follow it. So this is a problem. People don't know, if you have this white guy lives in an all-white area, he's not even going to the big city, and he's being raised, and they're telling him, son, this is the way it is, and you know, this is it. Then he goes off to the army, and then he has to fight, and then he
Kill
comes
those
back,
people.
and yeah, now he's like, you know, he killed some people, and now he's back, and he's big, and he's white, and he's mean, and he's trained.
Right.
But no Muslim, did he encounter a Muslim who told him?
No real life experience.
This happened to one guy. A couple of guys, I saw this example. One of them, he embraced Islam, and I saw him on the Dean show, and he was talking about his experience when he found out what Islam was all about. Another guy, it happened maybe just a year and a half ago. You know, the guys were going, in America, they were going outside of the masjid with guns and drawing pictures of what they said was our prophet and all this crazy stuff. One of them came and had a conversation with the guy in the mosque, and he actually invited him in, and he came and
It's very smart.
he saw this is a peaceful place. It's quiet. These people are. So he said, I'm going to leave my gun. He said, I'm coming back to the mosque. He said, I'm going to leave my gun at home. But I'm going to bring a paper and a pad because I got some serious questions. He was like, you know, and this is what it's about. This is what it's about. You know, he's a good guy. You know, he just needed to know. And this is what it's about. But unfortunately, you have agendas that don't, I mean, you know, Islam is not benefiting them. And people knowing each other is not benefiting them.
So it comes in the end, sorry, we just come up to the time, but very beautifully said, Brother Abdul Salam, the ending of this, it comes back to Hajj.
Yeah.
When we meet each other, we break those stereotypes.
Yeah. You
So
see,
subhanAllah.
and Malcolm was an example.
SubhanAllah.
He was a great example of that.
That's really great. It was very great discussion with you, Brother Abdul Salam. And I was pleased with meeting you. Jazakallah khairan. And Jazakumullah khairan, dear brothers and sisters, for joining us. We talked about a very huge topic and its relationship with Hajj. And of course, we as Muslims, we are colorblind, if we can say this. We don't see anyone has a preference over another person because of his race, background, ethnic group that he is affiliated to. And that shouldn't be just lip service. We, as Muslims, we pray together. We do our acts of worship together. So racism shouldn't be in our dictionary at all. And the first step is to seek the help and support of Allah to get over this problem, inshallah. So until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.